I believe we're in Chasidus, Parak Yutes. On our Mesilas Yesharim, I think we're up to the third paragraph of Bechlal Hayira. I think the last time we talked, we spoke about Big Day Shabbos. I believe. Remember that one? So, so let's see. Bechlal Hayira. So we're discussing other manifestations of Yiras Shamayim beyond the Ikar Adin that show a sense of understanding the Ratzon Hashem. Ubechlal hayira oid kvaid haTorah v'loimdeha. The additionally included in Yira is the honor of the Torah and those who learn it. And this is a very, very, very precious thing and a very important thing, because the way that we honor Torah and the way that we honor those who learn Torah really sets the stage for our own limud Torah. We obviously engage with more enthusiasm and more geschmack, and we're more focused and more interested in something when we treat people who do that with a certain dignity and respect. We respect that. That means something to us. A yeshiva bacher. There are gedolim, tzaddikim, and even people who themselves weren't so involved in learning. You find that sometimes someone has such an unbelievable value for the Torah itself that if a yeshiva bacher who spends his time learning Torah sits down with him, it's like a tremendous sense of kavod. This is a yeshiva, but of course, us b'nei yeshiva need to live up to that. We have to live up to that respect. But kavod haTorah v'loimdeho. Ubehed yeshaninu, it says openly in Pirkei Avos, kol ha'mechabed es haTorah gufay mechubed al habriyos. Someone who's mechabed the Torah, his guf is mechubed by briyos, by people. Such an interesting midah keneged midah. Someone who I didn't look up the Mishnah, but someone who's mechabed the Torah, kol ha'mechabed es haTorah, gufay mechubed. Gufay, his body, meaning him, but his body is mechubed by people. What does that mean? So, I think that at least the basic starting point is what we've been talking about when we've been talking about kavod. We keep calling kavod an external expression of an internal value. Well, there's no internal value greater than the Torah, and there's nothing more internal than the Torah. The Torah is like the neshama of the world. Everything in the world finds its shirish in the Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu built the world by looking into the Torah. The Torah is the pnimius of the entire world. Rav Hutner used to say, and it's very, very famous in his Torah, that it's no coincidence that Hashem created the world with 10 ma'amaros, and that He gave the Torah with 10 dibros. It's not a coincidence. The 10 dibros, he used to say, are the pnimius, are the neshama of the 10 ma'amaros. It makes sense. In fact, because we're coming out of Pesach, I'll mention that the 10 makkos were to destroy the world order of pre-Klal Yisrael and to create a new world order, a new Asar Ma'amoros. And each one of the makkos destroyed the past and rebuilt the future. As I'll say, each makkah had a negative and positive to it. So the Torah is certainly the most internal value that there is. And if I'm mechabed as Torah, that means that I allow that value to be nicker on the outside. So it's interesting that the Medrash points out, Gufay, my outside, then gets respected by other people. Because that's what I'm doing. I'm taking something that's internally valuable and I'm expressing outside its value. The Amru Zechrein and Levracha, and Chazal tell us, the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mipnei ma zacha achav lemalchus esrim ushtayim shana, lefi shekibed es haTorah shenitna be'esrim ushtayim oisiyos. Achav was one of the most wicked Rishayim to ever rule Klal Yisrael. He's bavus. He's like this. There are few people that get the that are held in greater what's the word I'm looking for? infamy than Achav, than the king Achav. And he ruled Klal Yisrael for 22 years because he honored the Torah that was given with 22 ICIs. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, "Vayishlach malachem el Achav, v'haya kol machamad einecha yosimu biyadam v'lakachu, vayomer lemalachei ben Hadad, imru la'adoni hamelach kol asher shalachta el avdecha barishayna ese, v'adavar hazeh lo yuchal la'asos." And then the Gemara says, "My machamad einecha." What does machamad einecha mean? Lav sefer Torah. So the psukim recount Achav taking very seriously the honor of the sefer Torah, and the lashon, the lashon that the Torah uses to describe the sefer Torah there is machamad einecha, the thing that's most desirous, the thing that's like the how do we say machamad einecha? Like what? Yeah, coveted. It's like someone looking at their young child as machamad einov. It's like the pleasure and desire and nachas, and that's machamad einov. And here he calls the Torah called machamad einecha. That's the Torah. It's like the greatest yearning, the greatest desire. V'amru zechayim levracha. Chazal tell us about a sefer Torah. Hayahaylech mimakayim lemakayim. Lo yanichenu b'sak v'yanichenu ala chamor v'yirkav olo. Don't put it into. Don't like just wrap up the sefer Torah and put it, on the bottom, in the storage compartment, and ride on it. You don't treat a sefer Torah that way. Rather, when you're riding on a chamor with the sefer Torah, you're holding the sefer Torah, or the sefer Torah is on your lap. Rather, menichai b'cheika, you put the sefer Torah b'cheika. Interesting. I've had this shaila a little bit when transporting sefer Torah for camp and so on, to make sure that transported in a makavidik way. Nowadays, we try that when we transport, especially small sefer Torah, that they come with an Aron Kodesh. Have you seen that? The sefer Torah come. But there's a tremendous chashivas to that. We have a tremendous chashivas for how we treat a sefer Torah. The osru oid leishev al amita shesefer Torah aleha. You know this. You're not allowed to sit on a bed that has a sefer Torah on it. We're noyeg not to sit on a bed if it has svarim on it as well. We try to pick up the svarim. V'chein oimrim ein zarken kisvei kodesh. We don't throw kisvei kodesh, and not just like chumash or neviim, but afilu halachos va'agados, even svarim of Torah Shabbal Peh. We don't toss around. We treat with tremendous reverence. V'asru lahaniach neviim uksuvim al gabi chumashim. This is a very important nekuda because this shows it's not just Torah. There's a hierarchy within Torah. When there's true kavod, it permeates. Like Yantiv is different than Shabbos, and Yantiv is different than Chalamoid, and like when we deal with Kedusha and Rosh Chodesh, and our Kedusha, and our world of Kedusha, each thing has its level and its nuance. And so within Torah, it's not just that I'm a Chabad Torah. When I have my Mesilas Yesharim, and then I take my Chumash, I'm putting my Chumash on top of the Mesilas Yesharim, not the Mesilas Yesharim on top of the Chumash. It's not just like it's Torah, I'll honor it, but I have a certain sense of hierarchy within the Torah that as I get closer to the pure Devar Hashem, I give that precedence, which makes a lot of sense. These are things that the Torah, that the Chachamim answered for everyone. The Hachasid yesh lo lilmoid me'ela ulehoisif aleihem kohena v'chohena l'chvoid shem Hashem Aleikav, and the Chassid should learn from these and add on them more and more in honor of Hashem. Okay, so I want to point out a couple of practical nekudas here about honoring. He's talking specifically about honoring the Torah. He didn't even get involved so much at this point with honoring those who learn Torah. That he'll get to a little bit later. Okay? But right now we're talking more about the kavod for Sfarim. Right? That's more what he's talking about. And I'm not sure how much we got to this, but in the past, it rings a bell that maybe we did speak about this. But it's a very, 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 very chashiv thing when a person takes their Sfarim seriously. Like someone, like you get married, for example, right? You get married and you move into your, let's say, just for example, okay? And you move into your new apartment, and you have probably a few boxes of svarim in your house. You got from your bar mitzvah. There might be some svarim that you never even opened. So, okay, fine. It'll take you 5 years till you bring it from your parents' house, till your mother says, can you please take these farm already? You moved out years ago. You know, I find it to be a little bit of a lack of excitement that I have Sfarim, and that my Sfarim are prized possessions of mine, to just forget them in an attic somewhere. You should know that I have such a powerful chinuch about this in myself, that I have a study. If you've been in my study in my house, it has a couple of Sfarim in it. And the truth is, there's no room. There's no room for the Sfarim I need. And there are on the shelves Sfarim that I will never use. I know myself. I know my learning. I know the types of Sfarim that I'm drawn to, and I'm learning different types of things. And sometimes I get a sefer, and I know I will never look at the sefer. And I cannot get rid of it. I cannot. I cannot get the words. I can tell my kids, okay, put this in Shemus, or send this to shul or something. I can't get rid of it. It's my Sfarim. These are my Sfarim. Once something becomes one of my Sfarim, it's my sefer. And I think that it applies. Like sometimes a guy will have I've been giving Mesilas Yesharim shiur for almost 30 years. So sometimes you'll have a guy comes with a Mesilas Yesharim, and I've had it very often that he brings his own Mesilas Yesharim every day, and he writes notes in it as I'm talking. Okay, so that becomes a pretty scribbled up Mesilas Yesharim. Now, on the one hand, you could look at that and say maybe that's not covered. But on the other hand, you could look at that and say, what a covet is that? It's his sefer, and I have one guy that he's still 20 years later, he still has that Mesilas Yesharim that's all scribbled up. I think he even bound it eventually. Like it's his Mesilas Yesharim that he worked on. There's a certain chashivas that he has for it. There's a certain love that he poured into it, and a certain value that he has for it. And that's what I mean about Sfarim, to treat Sfarim with a certain reverence. And it goes with our Gemara also. Again, I'm bringing up these things not to criticize, but to show that this type of thing is like a double-edged sword. On the one hand, the more that I value and appreciate my learning, the more I'm going to value and appreciate my Sfarim. But it goes the other way also, that if I treat my Sfarim with a certain value, I'll feel it in my learning. A lot of guys over here, over finals, will lose their Gemara. No idea. They got a Gemara in the beginning of the time. They have no idea where it is. To me, okay, some of us do a better job of keeping track of our stuff than others. Like it's a personality thing. It's true. And I often feel like if things that I have are not attached to me, I will not be able to keep track of anything. My wife has been nudging me for a long time to get earpods. She doesn't like when I walk around the house on speaker. It's hard to keep a phone against your face the whole time. So I finally I had earpods, and I tried to get away with buying something cheap because I didn't want to spend the $200 something that my phones would work well with. And I lost that investment. It was not a good investment. Not a good AirPods. You got to get something. It just doesn't work. It loses the charge. It just didn't work. So it was more aggravation than it helped. If I'm walking outside, you can't hear me. It was a disaster. So a couple of days ago, I finally did it. I took the plunge. I went online. I ordered Google Pixel, whatever they are, Pro, whatever. Add a couple of more, Ultra, Super, whatever. And I ordered a case with it so I shouldn't lose it. And the case hooks onto my keychain. And this morning I woke up and it's like, where are they? And I really been trying to hold on, and I have them for less than a week. Baruch Hashem, my son made me put onto my phone, find my AirPods. So I looked for them, and it said that they were in yeshiva. Did I traveled the entire day yesterday without these two things that I need so much. Like, I was sure I was on the phone on them, but apparently I wasn't because they were here. Anyway, so if you're like me, I understand that you would lose your Gemara. I get it. It's interesting. I very rarely lost the Gemara. Very rarely. The Gemara is like, it's your thing. You don't lose your thing. It's your thing. You write your name in it carefully. You take care of it. You love it. You hug it. When you pull it off the shelf, you give it a little kiss. They say over that I don't remember if I have this. I don't know if I have the story 100% accurate, but I think it was Rav Nosson Tzvi, the Rosh Yeshiva of the Mir, that was nifter a few years ago. I think he was in Rav Benish's house. It was like the previous Rosh Yeshiva. I think he caught him. I don't know if I have the names right, but the story I have right. He caught him just standing by his bookshelf, kissing up his Sefarim. Like this is his whole life. Machamad Einav. Like, I can't get enough of it. Just like there's Machamad. I told you that story about Rav Kook. That was also a similar thing with Eretz Yisrael. Remember that? Rav Kook was once on a bus, and the bus broke down. So the driver, says, "You guys can wander around." They were like in the Midbar Yehuda somewhere, like they were in the middle of nowhere. And he's like, "Hey, you guys can wander around. Come back in 45 minutes. I'll have it fixed." 45 minutes later, they can't find Rav Kook. They start looking around. They find him like behind some hill somewhere, just hugging the land. He's on the floor hugging Eretz Yisrael. Okay, Machamad Einav, So we have to treat our Torah that way. Certainly we treat a Sefer Torah that way. That goes without saying, and that's ingrained in us, that we stand up for a Sefer Torah. We don't move a Sefer, we don't bring, there's a whole halach, very, very, very interesting. In the end of Siman Kuf Lamed Hey, there's a whole discussion in the Poskim. Have you ever heard this shaila about bringing a Sefer Torah to someone's house for laning? There's a whole discussion, like someone who Elena was sitting Shiva, so they bring a Sefer Torah to his house. Do you know that it says in Shulchan Aruch you're not allowed to bring a Sefer Torah to someone's house for laning? We do it for an Avel. We don't bring the Sefer Torah to his house. We set it up in his house. We put it in an aron. We leave it there for a few days. We use it a few times. We don't treat it like it's a visitor. There's a certain seriousness that we take with treating the Sefer Torah with a certain chashivas. Some say that you have to lane from it 3 times. The Aruch HaShulchan suggests maybe you should lane from it 3 times. I don't know if you have to be makbid on that specifically. But there's even a shaila, if you have a guy in a nursing home and he can't travel, are you allowed to bring a Sefer Torah to him to lane Parsha Zachar? And Lamaisa, you are allowed to, because it's a deraisa. But it's a shaila if you're allowed to. It makes a difference, by the way, if the person you're bringing the Sefer Torah to is a Talmud Chacham. Like the Sefer Torah travels a little bit easier to the Talmud Chacham. But this is a very, very big value that we have. But it's automatic, isn't it? Someone would go in the middle of Seder right now. Let's say a Sefer Torah needed to be checked. And someone would walk over right now as we're talking. Someone would walk up to the Aron Kodesh, open the Aron Kodesh, pull out a Sefer Torah. What would the whole room do? The whole room stands up. Very often we wouldn't even think about it. We'd just be like, it's like this automatic thing. The Sefer Torah is out, we stand up. There are people you've noticed in Yom Narayim, there are people that won't sit down when the Aron Kodesh is open. They have a certain that reverence for a Sefer Torah. You know that we don't touch a Sefer Torah, right? You have to fix the cloth. You see people use their talis. That we won't touch. Someone needs to point. We have a special pointer. We won't touch the cloth of the Sefer Torah. We have a certain reverence for a Sefer Torah. But I'm here to be mechadish, or what the B'Sil Sisharim is being mechadish. When he says, afilu halachos va'agados, is that it's not just a Sefer Torah. You're holding a Gemara that's also a Sefer Torah. I'm not saying that you should stand up whenever they come into a room. In some yeshivas and some chasteres, the guys dance with their Gemaras. You know that? You've heard of it? You've ever seen it? I've never seen it. You've seen it? People dance with their Gemaras. I get it. That's, you spend a year poring over a Gemara, learning it, trying to understand, being frustrated. You have your tough times. You came back to the Gemara, You went on a rough date. You came back the next day. You weren't sure what was going to happen. You come back to your Gemara. It's amazing. You're about to get. I'm just looking at Ellie. So, you're about to get engaged. You're still deciding, but you think this is going to happen. And then what do? You come back to your Gemara, and then you go off and get engaged. And what do you do after that? You come back to your Gemara. You know. And I was by Ari Olswang's chasana 2 nights ago, and he's a superstar. I didn't even finish the conversation with him, but last night I got a text from him thanking me for coming to the wedding. Like it was like his first night of Shabbat brachas. Like that's something. That's a certain midah taiva that I just like. Wow, to have that presence of mind. You're married for a day. You're reaching out to thank the Rebbe for coming to the. And if I got a text, I'm sure I'm not the only one that got it. Right? That means that he's sitting there. He's telling his wife, "Let's call some people and say thank you for coming to the wedding." Right? That's amazing. So no pressure, but that's really no pressure. But it's an amazing midah tova, it's amazing. But he texted me. I thanked him because it was such a nachas to be there, and he's like, "Okay, I hope to be back in shir next week." Like back to the Gemara, machamad einov, back to the Gemara, and through life it's like that, Be'ezer Hashem, you'll have a child, you'll be zeicha, you'll make a kiddush, you'll make a bris, and then you'll come back to your Gemara. And by the time, if you look at your Gemara with that kind of feeling, that kind of relationship, losing a Gemara would be tragic. Even if you have nothing written in it. But like the Gemara is like the ruchnius anchor that you built for yourself. It was always back to the Gemara, and there's a certain reverence. I like the word reverence better than I like the word honor. Because honor is not filled. Honor is like a keli not being filled. Reverence is real covet. It's like I'm so full of a certain sense of awe and love that of course I treat it a certain way. Right? You revere it. That's how we need to look at our Gemaras. Think about that. Your chumash that you take with you, your siddur. Maybe you got a siddur by your bar mitzvah and you're still davening from it. Things like that. Like you carry with you. You carry a certain reverence. You treat it a certain way. When I see someone taking like an old siddur and a page gets torn and they're trying to scotch tape it back together, it's like emotional to see. Like, you can go to a Sefarim store. You can buy 20 new Sefarim, but this guy wants to use his siddur. That's covered for Sefarim. So and it's a double-edged sword. It's a great result of being connected to learning. But if you tell yourself this is going to be my Gemara, it will also keep you connected to learning. Some people will even tell you, I can't. I'm having a hard time learning today. I misplaced my Gemara and I can't learn without it. Right? They're like I'm not comfortable. Like it's not my Gemara. Like if I this is a bad mushal, but just explain the emotion. Like my wife is not available for lunch, so okay. So do I have another wife anywhere? No, you only have one wife. Okay, it's not really true with the Gemara because the words of the Gemara are in every Gemara, Baruch Hashem. But you develop a kesher with it. Like I don't have my Gemara. I'm going to use a different Gemara, someone else's Gemara, while I do this incredible thing called learning Torah. That's the type of reverence that we want to build with our Sefarim. And I suggest that you do that. The yeshiva was happy to get these Mesilas Yesharim, but get your own. Get your own siddur. Especially as you get more settled in life, and you could actually remember from one day to the next where your stuff is. Get something. Get your name printed on it. It's okay. You can do it for yourself. If not, someone will do it. I'll do it for you. Get your name printed on it. Get a sticker or a stamp that you could put onto your stuff that says that says Misifre, whatever. You have something like that? Get a stamp with your name on it and put it into your Sefarim. And have a thing. I know one person, there's one guy that I know, I'll end with this. There's one what?
He has a stamp with his name on it.
You remember those stamps? It was a classic bar mitzvah gift for a long time. Yeah. It's a classic. Yeah.
One day.
Like, so nowadays, you just go onto your computer and you print out labels. But no, the stamp, the smell of the ink.
You get on your phone, it's great.
Yeah. He's gonna put a thumbprint in every Gemara. Thumbprint, right? You could scan the thumbprint, Something just slipped my mind. Oh, I know somebody. I know somebody. So a lot of people do this. That when they get a new sefer, a new siddur, a new gemara, they write on it. Not only do they write their name in it, but they write the date. Like they want to remember when they got it. Okay, I know one person that every single sefer he buys tons of svarim. He puts in the front a short poem about his buying the sefer. You know, like today is what like in rhyme. It'll be like, I hope to be able to learn. And it's not a made up thing. And many achronim, if you look even at our Masechta, many achronim start every Masechta with a poem. You know that? The Ezra's Hashem Elikei, Anoisein HaTorah, Naschil Hayom Masechta Beitza, the Nizkel, the Lambda, the Yagia, the whatever, like they'll write Pnei Yeshua at the beginning of every Masechta has a poem. So this guy, at the beginning of every Sefer, he writes a poem. Any Sefer he gets, he writes a poem. So let's try to do that. Let's try to zoom in on our Sfarim. It doesn't just have to be our Sfarim, but let's try to zoom in on it. Yeshukaya.